tell yourself, I'm going to knock 1 to 3 doors on expireds minimum. Because I'll tell you what, if you do that habit close and convenient, you're more likely to do it. Be super relentless. You're going to do the calls, you're going to do the door knocking, you're going to go ahead and mail. Again, remember, average agents get average results, outrageous agents get outrageous results.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Vulcan 7 Coaches and Mentors, where we bring you some of the best in the industry and they share with you their tips and strategies so that you can implement them in your business immediately. Now, for today's episode, we're going to be talking about expireds, but more specifically, door knocking expireds. So if this is something that you've been wanting to do, if you don't know where to start or how to do it, make sure that you have your pen and paper ready because today's guest is going to dive deep into exactly what you need to be doing. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring on today's guest, Coach Joe Mendoza. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, Loida, how are you?
Doing great. I know we had you on the show in the past. We talked about a completely different topic. I think it was ISAs back then, but I'm excited to talk about expires and door knocking expires because we don't hear a lot about it. And for anyone that maybe doesn't know who you are, just kind of give us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So my name's Joe Mendoza. I've been in real estate almost 30 years. So a licensed broker in California for 27 plus. I'm a Tom Ferry coach for over 14 years. Tom personally coached me and I invest as well. So I do run a real estate investment group called Commercial Real Estate Investor Club.
Awesome. Awesome. So, obviously, today's topic is about expires and door knocking expires. So, first of all, let's begin with door knocking. Are you saying that door knocking still works?
Absolutely, Loida. It's one of these things that people think that, oh, everybody's calling expireds. And when you go in a crowded room or you hold a mastermind and you say how many people doing it, and barely anybody is doing expired. So same thing with door knocking, barely anybody's doing door knocking.
Yes. So obviously, in different markets, depending where agents are at, we see a lot more expireds versus in other areas. So when it comes to expireds and hitting them at the doors, what do you think makes it so different from going in person versus over the phone?
Over the phone, it's so much easier for somebody just click, hang up, right? They could be rude or not in the moment of time to talk to you or whatever. It's so much easier. But people are actually a little embarrassed by like shutting the door. Once in a while, you're going to get it. But I'll tell you what, cold calling or calling versus door knocking, the chance of you getting turned down is a lot less at the door.
So let's say I get my list every day from Vulcan 7. I see the expired. How do I know which ones to go in person to? Should I go to my local ones? How far do I drive out? Do I need to do any research or what's typically like the protocol?
The typical protocol, I would say, if I was coaching any agent, is close and convenient. All right. Turn it into a habit of making it close and convenient. Every day, tell yourself, I'm going to knock 1 to 3 doors on expireds minimum. Because I'll tell you what, if you do that habit close and convenient, you're more likely to do it. Because if it's too far away, just like farming, chances are you're going to blow it off.
So let's say an agent goes and door knocks a home that's very close to them, but the homeowner doesn't answer. Is there something to be done right after, or what would you say for them to leverage their time while they're at a specific neighborhood?
Loida, I am so glad you brought up that question because this is one of the things that like people will get discouraged, right? If they're
Mhm.
driving at 8 to 10 in the morning or 4 to 6 p.m. at night, these are the wiser times to effectively either call or door knock. But I'll tell you what, you drive there, you knock on the door, nobody's home. So what do? You get back in your car and drive off? No, absolutely not. So what you do is a technique I call the 5-5-10. All right. So you knock 5 doors to the left, 5 doors to the right, and then 10 across. And you're simply saying, hey neighbor, I noticed the home that I was trying to get to on 123 Easy Street, they were listed before. I'm sure you've seen the sign. I'm just curious. Do you know how I can get a hold of them? Or how do you know them that I could get reach out to them? Because you want to try and make that connection of like establishing that neighbor, like they know them. So more than likely they might have their cell phone, email, or any contact like that. And then at that point, sometimes they are going to resist you. Leave your business card and then follow up.
So, do you recommend for agents also to go back to that expired later in the day or in the evening on the weekend? Or should they also leave something at the door or in their mailbox?
I wouldn't leave anything at the door right away. I would try like three different excuse me, three different times of the day. Morning, midday, and afternoon. And then you also have Saturdays and Sundays like 10 a.m. and like 4 to 6 p.m. The reason why I know these work very, very well, it's been proven. Many, many years ago, around the 2008 to 2010, I was doing a lot of drop ins with the banks hired me to do BPOs. And those were like the proven times that I would catch people just doing some simple door knocking. It works the same exact way. Then, if you still can't get a hold of them, some of the different techniques that I would recommend is, you know, this is up to you. You're an adult, so decide, the viewers who are listening, you could get these express packages, whether it's FedEx, UPS, or USPS that are express. Okay. And then you put in your expired letter in there. You could handwrite it or put those stickies on there or whatever. They're more likely to open that package.
I love it. Everything that you're mentioned, I feel it's all actionable things that agents can do immediately. And I also love talking about this topic because I've door knocked expireds and I've seen the difference when someone picks up the phone and they just hang up versus at the door. It's a little bit less of them slamming the door on my face and they kind of want to listen to me and what I have to say. So, with that being said, what is the dialogue that an agent should get started with if someone does open the door?
Perfect question. So first off, before you even go there, like typically there's positioning. Okay. So when you go there, you ring the doorbell once. Okay. Nobody comes. Don't leave right away. Okay. Maybe wait, like count 1,000, 1,000, count up to 20. Okay, and then ring it again and wait. Okay. Because sometimes they're in the backyard, they're with their toddler, they're watching their favorite TV show or prepping a meal. So don't leave right away. Okay. So ring twice. And then when they come to the door, when you stand, don't stand like this, like direct eye contact like that, because that's a position of authority and that's a little bit aggressive. So lean back a little bit, maybe stick one hand in your pocket and slouch over a little bit. Okay, less intimidating, because if you're like this, you're looking like you're a policeman or something like that, authority, or you're trying to repo their house or something like that. So be careful how you stand, and then mirror and mimic right away. Okay, so when they start talking, you're not this bubbly personality, whatever, unless they are, because if they are, then level up, because you want to mirror and mimic. And in NLP, we call that mirror and mimicking, neuro linguistic programming. And then when you speak, I would simply say, use your Tom Ferry scripts or Mike Ferry scripts or whatever scripts you have that are available. But typically, I would say something like this. I would say something, yeah, just curious. I notice your home is no longer on the market for sale. Just kind of curious. When would you be looking to put it back on the market, or have you already sold it? Okay. When would you be looking to put your home back on the market, or have you already sold it? That is typically my opener.
I love it. Yeah, I love the when because you're not asking, "Are you going to?" Because they might say, "No, I'm not." The when it's actually a time frame. And it's funny you were talking about, the mirroring and just how you're standing. I remember there were many times when I would door knock expires and I would talk to the homeowner through their window because they wouldn't open the door or like the screen door, so I couldn't even see their face, but I would still have full conversations. So for anyone that's listening, sometimes you might not see the homeowner, but if they open the door or the screen or the window and they're talking to you, this is your time to do what Joe said and just, get going with the conversation and find out what's going on.
Yeah, like a funny story. I'm so glad you pointed that out because one of the keys to success, ladies and gentlemen, is to be relentless. And I was always taught the average agent gets average results. Outrageous agents get outrageous results. So I took one of my mentees, my teammates that I was coaching and training, door knocking. And then sure enough, we door knocked and I waited a couple times and I'm like, no way, I'm gonna keep going. Okay. So I walked into the yard and I like knocked on the window. And then sure enough, they opened it up and they were very, very friendly. And then they went to the door, they came out and we started having a conversation. So depends who you are. Like I said, I'm very, very outrageous when it comes to expireds, cancels, even distressed properties. Okay, I'm very, very relentless and outrageous. That's why I typically get better results.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that as you're approaching a home, you probably have like a smile or you don't look so serious. Cause I know for me, I always make sure to have at least like a smirk or like a smile. That way, if someone did look at me through the window, they might be like, oh, she looks nice. I'll open the door and see what they have to say.
Yes, Loida. So I'm glad you said that because sometimes I don't just jump to scripts, right? Because I'm going to read them. I'm going to look at their eyes, their posture, if they're grumpy or whatever. And then if they are grumpy, they have that look on their face. Well, I try to crack a joke right away. I will crack a joke, something like on the fly, or I'll say a compliment. Then I go into scripts because I want to read them because if they have that grumpy look in the face, man, you're already you're battling. Okay, so you want to connect right away.
Mhm. So, a question that I have for you is let's say, in the morning, I'm taking a look at the expireds that are around me, but I see some that are tenant occupied or I don't know if they're vacant. Do you suggest doing any type of research before going out to these properties just to make sure that you will encounter a homeowner?
Absolutely. So if you have the luxury of an assistant or virtual assistant, I highly, highly recommend that. So some of the folks that I coach, I tell them go to your Vulcan Summon account, look at these expireds, and have your assistant do additional skip tracing, make sure it wasn't relisted, read the remarks, see if it's tenant occupied. So you have a different approach because if you're going in there, okay, this one's tenant occupied, well, you might want to change your scripts and use like, hey, I'm just kind of curious, I noticed this home was for sale and you were the tenant. What's stopping you from purchasing? What's stopping you from buying? Okay, and then now you picked up a buyer. So turn these lemons into lemonades.
Yes, I love that you brought that up because, yeah, it happens many times where maybe agents are so focused on just trying to reach the homeowner that when they see the tenant, they completely miss asking the potential question of if they might be interested in buying. And now you have another lead.
Exactly correct. Because folks, markets shift. Okay. So you want to have like a 50-50 blend, buyers, sellers, and you got to know how to pivot very, very quickly. When you become more experienced, then you go into a 60-40 blend or 70-30 blend where you have more listings, list to last, they call it, right?
Would you also recommend a combination of hitting the doors and also calling them?
Absolutely. Be super relentless. So you're going to do the calls, you're going to do the door knocking, you're going to go ahead and mail. Okay. And if you could really skip trace and get maybe their exact cell phone, maybe you send a text. Now, ladies and gentlemen, of course, adults, be mindful of all these different rules in place about anti spamming and all that. Use your better judgment.
Absolutely. Now, I want to shift a little bit, still regarding door knocking, but let's say there's some ladies that are watching this and they're like, you know what, Joe, I want to do it, but I'm a solo agent and I'm worried about safety. What tips do you have regarding safety?
Oh, great question, Lloyd. I'm so glad you brought that up. Study martial arts.
Yes.
I'm a big fan. If you look on me on social, I'm getting into jujitsu and judo, and I highly, highly recommend that for females, no doubt about it. Okay. Secondly, partner up with one of your lenders or vendor partners because I've done that multiple times, even being a male. I'll partner up with a lender, come door knock with me or somebody in your office or one of your accountability partners. use pepper spray, use all these different things that will be in your favor. Walk in flats, don't walk in high
Mhm.
heels, right? Wear pants, don't wear a skirt. Use these different things to better protect yourself, better prepare yourself from anything that might happen. Because, man, this is one of the things that is out there. But
Mhm.
I'll tell you what, the numbers are more in your favor if you're doing it the right way. Everything I just shared with you, and you're gonna get the results. Again, remember, average agents get average results, outrageous agents get outrageous results.
Yes, it's funny that you mentioned the martial arts because about 5 years ago, I started to take boxing classes for that same reason too, so that I knew how to, punch if I needed to punch someone. And so, ladies, if you've been afraid of martial arts or boxing, it's definitely going to be an advantage for you just to know. Not that something's going to happen, because at the end of the day, we're also very cautious of where we're going and what time we're going. I know for me, I let someone know where I'm going to be at and when I start and when I finish. That way they can know exactly where Loida is. But I don't want you to think that this should be something that's stopping you, because just like Joe said, there's a lot of opportunity out there for hitting the expires, especially at the doors. And just one more tip from my experience as a woman hitting the doors compared to a gentleman, most of the time more doors will probably open for a lady versus someone that's over 6 feet. It might seem intimidating, so that has been my experience.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. And folks, know the neighborhood you're door knocking in, right? Dress apart. If
Mhm,
it's a little more blue collar, then dress down. If it's a little more white collar, affluent, whatever, dress up. And for males, what I would say, I'm so glad you pointed that out, Lloyd, because on the exact opposite for males, be mindful of sometimes even putting on your badge on the right side of your chest. Okay, because females typically won't answer the door if you look a little strange. Okay, you might bring a clipboard, have
mhm,
your badge on the right side, because eyeballs typically look at the right. When you shake your hand, you're shaking with the right hand. Okay, and then again, on the door knocking, step back, male or female. Okay, take 2 or 3 steps back. Don't stand at the door. So when you walk up, you ring the doorbell, immediately step backwards 2 or 3 steps, and then position, right? And then you're ready to go. So you even at an angle, right? You could even split the other way. And be mindful, if there's a gate or a area that could be barely visible to the public street, I'd be mindful. I mean, when I was working for the banks and doing some of these BPOs, man, if there was a fence, no way, I'm not going in there, even for my safety. So be
mhm.
careful, be mindful, use your common sense.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that up, because let's say I'm door knocking myself, right? And I'm so excited. I'm talking to the homeowner and they say, come on in and take a look. What would you suggest if I'm by myself? Like, what should Loida do?
Great question. So Joe Mendoza would walk in, and I would be on full alert, and I would read it. Okay,
Mhm,
because once in a while I'm willing to take my chance, right? Because like I said, I've trained almost all my life, and I'm very prepared, very alert, and I'm willing to take the chance.
mhm,
Okay, for a female, you know what? Be careful, right? If you feel very confident and you're very prepared, then again, you have your alert on your phone, you have that 911 speed dial, you have a friend or somebody in the car, right?
mhm,
You have all these different things that are like your ready preparedness, especially if you have somebody in the car just kind of waiting. Hey, in 30 seconds or a minute, you give the clock, set some kind of alerts on your phones, devices. There's so many things out there that you could use. And again, it's up to you, ladies. If you want to take the chance, I would make sure don't do it unless you have all these other precautions in place.
exactly. Yes, I love it. Now, I want to shift a little bit. Again, it's still regarding expires and door knocking them. Now, let's say I'm door knocking an expired and it's a couple, sweet couple. Yeah, you know what, Joe? We're looking to go back on the market. Can you help us?
And what I'm sorry.
And the question would be, how can an agent make sure that they're fully prepared that if they do get a homeowner that's ready to relist, that they get the listing, possibly even on the spot?
Absolutely. I've done that multiple times, folks. There's some gurus out there back in the day that would say you can never do it. It's a two-step, three-step process. So I'm like, yeah, right. I've done it multiple times where you have a blank listing agreement. Okay. So don't put the address. There's hacks that you could do if you're in California, there's ways to kind of pre-print it out, but don't put the address and print out the rest of it, the listing agreement ready to go, where you could literally list on the spot. You might have an iPad or a MacBook or something like that where it's already there and you have your Wi-Fi device ready to go. But I would highly recommend that, what they say, speed to lead, and it's not necessarily experience, it's preparedness, again, of being ready to go. You chant your affirmations, your mantra, I'm a lean mean listening machine, or whatever you do before that, and I'll tell you what, that confidence is going to ooze out, because most people, when they don't get the appointment, they don't turn it into a lead, it's because they're lacking confidence.
Mhm. And a question I'm sure agents are thinking right now is, do I need to do my research on comps before I hit the door, or should I just go and just figure it out?
Yes and yes. So to each their own, because some people want to get ready to get ready to get ready and they never get started, right? Some people will do a little bit of, they do the broker caravans. They do the homework before going into those neighborhoods. They're farming, so they're already constantly preparing, right? And so that's why I said earlier, close and convenient. Really, if you want to dominate your market space, go close and convenient, and really know average cost per door, what sold recently, what just recently canceled, what went pending. You got to know all these different things. How do you know we're close and convenient? Once in a while, if you really want to put the pedal to the metal, you're going to go in these different areas. Okay. Well, at least you'll have a preprint of the MLS that shows expired or cancel. You'll have the price. Well, one of the pro tips, of course, is never, ever, ever relist at the same price. Typically, when it expires, one of the top reasons why they expired is price. So you're not going to go in there. As a matter of fact, go aggressive. Recommend to the seller, hey, I would recommend you drop it $50,000, $100,000, depends, and then see what they say, and lead it with a follow up script saying, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, you know what? My job number one is to sell your property. And guess what? I work on commission, and it's in my best interest to sell it for top dollar, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So tell you what, if I sell it for less, I lose also. So you better believe that we're going to push the highest price possible, because I want to get you to your point A, point B, whatever it is.
Awesome. Yeah. I feel that everything you've been mentioning, even, these scripts of what to say, agents will probably have to watch this 2, 3 times to write it all down. And, before we wrap up, tell us a little bit more about your coaching, how agents can get a hold of you if they want you to coach them in training on not just expireds, but, how to kill it in real estate.
Absolutely. So I'm experiencing a very demanding time in my life and my career. I mean, reach out. I do like to interview you, as well as you're going to probably want to interview me first to make sure it's a fit, because quite frankly, I'm not for everybody. My cell phone, you could type up my name, find me online. But I'll tell you what, like, if you're very coachable, you put your ego aside, you're willing to learn and you're willing to commit. This isn't like my average clients are with me typically 3 to 5 years. I always tell them this is not a sprint, this is not the magic pill. If you're looking to work with me and you have that in mind, forget it, we're not a fit automatically. Okay, go all in. Think that this is a marathon, put the ego aside, and we'll interview each other, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on this show once again. You gave so much great value when it comes to door knocking, expireds. I know that everyone that's tuning in is going to be able to hopefully now be more confident in hitting the doors and getting more listing appointments. So, thank you once again, Joe. And for everyone that's watching, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you,
Bye.
Lloyd. I appreciate it. Good luck, guys.